Wednesday edition, Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Tiny Hands is with me, as always. Hunter Vaughn producing the show. Josh DiMaggio with us as well. Lots to get into today. For being a Wednesday, a lot of news in the world of Wisconsin sports. Packers going to Brazil for the season opener. They'll take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm very excited about that matchup, so we will talk about that in just a moment. Also want to talk about Giannis. I've come to the realization, don't take this out of context, Hunter. I know nothing about the human body. Soleus strain for Giannis, which means something in the calf. It's my understanding. Not an Achilles. That's intact, so that's good.
I just heard calf strain, so that's the way I'm going with it.
Yeah, I had to ask prior to the show how you pronounce soleus. And turns out it's a soleus, not solus. Soleus strain for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So we'll talk about that. Justin Garcia of the Milwaukee Bucks Radio Network, color analyst and studio host on the Milwaukee Bucks Radio Network, will join us in about 15 minutes to break all things Giannis down. The Bucks have 3 games remaining in the regular season. They get a win yesterday over the Celtics, but may lose Giannis, hopefully not long term. So I want to pick Justin's brain on that. And I imagine he's a little fatigued yet from WrestleMania over the weekend. So we'll talk with our buddy JG about that at 12:45 today. Me and Hunter just having regular life frustrations over the course of the last 24, 48 hours. So we'll get into that before we end the show with what Strouf learned. Let's start with Brazil. The Packers headed to Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil, as they will open their season on Friday, September 6th. They will be the second NFL game of the season, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, which is exciting. Now, this has been in the rumor mill for a couple of months. Credit to our guy, Josh DiMaggio, and his team, Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, weekday mornings, 7 to 9 on ESPN Milwaukee. They asked Adam Schefter about that this morning, and about an hour later, boom, Schefter reports it's a fact that the Packers will head to Brazil in week 1. So I have things that excite me about this game. I have things that don't excite me about this game. Things that excite me about this game. Packers get all eyes on them. It's the only game being played that day. It's Packers, it's Eagles. It's 2 big worldwide franchises, 2 very good teams, 2 playoff teams from a year ago. All that is fun. Things that I don't love about this game. It's a Friday night during the high school football season. So maybe not me, but people are going to have to pick. Do I go watch little Timmy play high school football, or do I sit my butt on the couch and watch the Packers on a Friday night? Things that annoy me about this game. It's streamed exclusively on Peacock. I have a Peacock subscription, but I feel bad for, I don't know, my grandpa. He doesn't have Peacock. He probably doesn't even know what Peacock is. How's he going to watch the Packers? So that one bugs me. I don't like that they do that, to be real honest with you.
So, one, you could invite your grandpa over, have some quality time with him. So that's a solution for you.
You just made me sound like a dick. I don't like that. But
well, if the shoe fits. Second, I didn't like it until my wife and I watched the Chiefs-Dolphins game that was on Peacock. And because it's stream only, they do stream it in 4K, and it looks really good. So I kind of like that. Right. I'm okay with paying the, what is it, like $8 a month
something
for
like
Peacock.
That,
yeah. Plus, I'll watch the college basketball games on there. I watch the college football stuff. They have enough content where I'm like, I'm fine with it. Whatever. I don't really care.
So like WrestleMania, I know you think I'm a dork for watching WWE, but that's on Peacock over the weekend. So I have Peacock for WWE and enough college sports, but the first week of the NFL season, I don't love it. If this was week 6, I might have a different feeling on it. But, I mean, this is an exciting game, right? You have the NFC champion from now 2 years ago in the Philadelphia Eagles, and you have what everybody views as this up-and-coming powerhouse in the Green Bay Packers in the NFC, a team that we talked about on Monday, right? Jordan Love ranks 5th in MVP odds as it stands right now on April 10th. This is a young offense with a ton of young pieces that are really exciting. It's a first-year defensive coordinator. It's 2 head coaches that are viewed as 2 of the young, best coaches, at least in the NFC, if not in the entire NFL, and Nick Sirianni, who was a little bit on the hot seat toward the ends of this season, but he got to a Super Bowl. And obviously Matt LaFleur. So I think there's enough intrigue on this game being, the second game of the NFL season following whoever the Chiefs play in the opener. I think this is a good idea, right? A Friday night game in week 1. It's not like they're playing on a short week. The travel isn't as terrible as playing in London. So overall, I'm for this. I don't have the EBGBs like I did 2 years ago when the Packers went abroad in, I think it was week 6 or week 5, and they came back and then their season fell apart. And obviously Aaron Rodgers broke his thumb in that game against the New York Giants, which they lost. So overall, I give this a thumbs up. It's exciting. It's a standalone game for the Packers. It has that level of intrigue. But why the Packers? I mean, I guess I get they're a worldwide brand. They have fans that travel everywhere. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of divisional games. Maybe I'm just being an old head here, Hunter. But I like the idea of divisional games opening the season. Eagles-Packers just doesn't have that oomph feel, although it is a fun game and it is a fun matchup. But to open the season, I would just love to see Jordan Love kick the crap out of the Bears again. But maybe I don't know. You're a Cowboys fan, so you're in this division.
Yeah, it's weird that they don't. Usually the NFC East, like, they play each other week 1. Like, that's just kind of the tradition for it. But I'm kind of fine with it, and you really should be as a Packer fan, because odds are I think the Eagles are going to be back, and you're going to be fighting with the Eagles for playoff positioning.
True.
I'd rather get this as a road game where you're playing the Eagles on it's supposed to be an Eagles home game in Brazil instead of at Philly in December, and then this could determine playoff seeding. So really this helps the Packers. So you don't lose a home game, and one of your road games is a neutral site game.
That's a good point. It's
So
a really good point, actually. Yeah. It's a neutral site game. Actually, it might be more of a home game, to be real honest with you. Because
it probably will be.
Packers fans travel well. So I started the show by saying I know nothing about the human body. And I love that Joshie DiMaggio is a part of the show now, because we can't hear from him, but we can read from him. He texts me during the show. And Josh DiMaggio, better than anybody else on planet Earth, is great at holding me accountable for things I say. Apparently, it's twice as long from Green Bay to London, from Green Bay to Sao Paulo. I figured it'd be shorter. So not only do I know nothing about the human body, I know nothing about the globe. I know nothing.
Well,
it's twice as long. I mean, it's nice that you get the extended week, right? So you play Friday, you have travel time built in on the weekend, and then you don't play, obviously, again, we assume, until the following Sunday. So that's good, at least. But I would have figured, being in South America, although at the very bottom of South America, it'd be a quicker trip.
yeah, it is a longer trip because you're going through the fat part of the globe as well, which is a part of
fat part. Is that what they call that?
Well, you're going to cross the equator, so like it's the thickest part of planet Earth. So you have to go further to get around that hump, and
come on.
There's less.
You can't drop the words "thick" and "hump" back to back. That's not okay.
We're not on the radio. It's fine. But then too, you're not going through all of the time zone changes, so that's
Sure.
a part of it. So it feels like it isn't as far of a trip.
Sure. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, you learn something new every day. So overall, I like this matchup. It's a fun game, as I've said a million times. Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, two of the young up-and-coming quarterbacks in the NFC, two guys that, for different reasons, have really big seasons in front of them, right? Jordan Love, it's more of, hey, this is a second act now. Can you prove that this wasn't a fluke, the second half of last season? Can you prove that you are the face of a franchise? Can you prove that you're a franchise quarterback who's going to be, at the time this game is played, we assume, top 10 money, top 5 money in the NFL. For Jalen Hurts, it's, okay, you guys flame the hell out, the Philadelphia Eagles did last year after starting the season. I think it was 10-1, and then they lose 5 of their last 6 or whatever it was, and lose in the wild card round of the playoffs. So for the Eagles, it is, can you prove and turn this thing back around to be the team you were 2 years ago that made the Super Bowl? Jalen Hurts, not a great season for him statistically a year ago. It wasn't bad by any means. I think we overplayed how bad it was, but it wasn't his best year. So I think for both of these quarterbacks, the face of the franchise quarterbacks, and Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts, this is an opportunity to start the 24 season off on the right foot on a national stage. So for different reasons and different trajectories, this is a huge year for both of these guys. And to Hunter's earlier point, right? I imagine these will be two of the teams that will be standing at the end of the year when it comes down to playoff positioning. So despite it being a week one game, it will likely have an impact come the end of the year. So for a million reasons, I'm excited about this game, just not that it's not on national television, it's on Peacock. And, actually, Friday night, you get done with work, I'm talking myself into it. Talking myself into the Friday night Packers, Philly Eagles, Brazil, Sao Paulo game. I'm in on it. Now, you had just moments ago, Hunter, you had the Brazil flag up on the screen, obviously green and gold.
Yes.
And Joseph S. on the YouTube chat saying he hopes the Packers wear their green and gold uniforms. I would agree with that. And I would think they should. But I don't know. I guess as the road team, you typically wear the white. What is Philly's home uniform? Is that the green one, the heather green?
Yeah, they'll go the green. They do have an alternate black.
But I don't think you can go black and green, right?
Yeah, but sometimes you'll see teams, if this game is outdoors and it is hot in Brazil, they may opt to go with the white then, because then you stay a little bit cooler. So then the Packers would have to wear their green. So there is a chance they could wear green on the road. They've done that in like Miami and Tampa before.
This is how you know it's April.
Yeah.
This conversation is how you know it's April. But nonetheless, looking forward to the full schedule release coming up in a couple of weeks. And then obviously the NFL draft here in just under or just over 2 weeks coming up at the end of the month. We'll talk more NFL a little bit later. Want to get quickly into the NBA. Bucks win last night, 104-91 over the Boston Celtics, but they lose Giannis. Giannis leaves in the third quarter with a calf strain. I'm not even going to try to call it the soulless strain that I called it before because I don't know what the hell that means, but I do know what a calf strain means. The good news is coming out earlier this morning, very early this morning, the Achilles intact for Giannis. So it means a shorter version of this, whatever this injury is. Now, the timeline is TBD, but as we know about Giannis, this guy's a complete superhuman. We saw what he did in 2021 with the knee injury in the playoffs, comes back and plays through it, has just a terrific playoff run, a historic playoff run, and drops a 50-piece in the NBA Finals. So everything about Giannis we know is he is a complete freak of nature. It's just a little nerve-wracking when the Bucks have been unraveling the way they have. Entering last night's game, they had lost 4 in a row to 3 bad teams, Wizards, Grizzlies, Raptors, and lose to the Knicks a couple nights ago. They rebound last night with a win, but they've got to figure this out here. Only 3 games remaining in the regular season. Playoffs kick up soon. What is Giannis' status going to be? We don't know yet. Scary, nonetheless. 3 games remaining. Bucks play the Magic tonight at Fiserv. They head to the Thunder on Friday and wrap up their season in Orlando on Sunday. Joining us now is the color analyst, studio host on the Milwaukee Bucks radio network, wrestling fan extraordinaire, and a wonderful friend of the show. Time for our quarterly check-in with our good friend Justin Garcia. Justin, clean shaven. You look good, dude. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. Here, I got to adjust the camera. I forgot you're big time now. Just got back from getting clean shaven and getting a haircut. Well, I didn't pay to have somebody shave for me. I figure I can still do that myself. But But yeah, we're in the playoff mode, and we'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, after last year's first-round exit, I think we're all holding our breath as the last couple of weeks have not been very pretty for the Bucks. They've lost 6 of their last 8 games. Entering last night, it was 6 of their last 7. Do you want to start with what the heck's going on? Let's start there. We'll get into the Giannis injury because that's obviously nerve-wracking in and of itself. But prior to the Giannis injury, a lot of losses entering last night's nice win against Boston. It's kind of been the ongoing theme, right? I mean, we talked during the All-Star break, and things were not good. And then they come out of the break and they win whatever it was, 5-6 in a row. But it's gone back to poor defense, can't nail the 3-pointers. So from your perspective, what's going on in this little streak that's been happening the last couple of weeks?
Wow. Not to. All right. So what's going on the court is. The big issue during that 4-game skid was their point of attack defense. And I don't think it explains all of it, but a big part of that was the absence of Pat Beverly. He's the best perimeter defender that this team has. And, that's where the issues kind of started to pile up is if you're beating your man, and I've seen a lot of people say, man, Brook Lopez isn't the same that he used to be. I think he's been put in some tough spots a lot of times where, he had that security blanket of Drew Holiday, not only containing at the point of attack, but, funneling the defender into Brook Lopez and creating those contests. So that's kind of gone by the wayside. And a
Yeah.
big part of that is the absence of Pat Beverly. But, when that happens, it just puts so much stress on this Bucks defense because Brook is tasked with defending the paints and trying to be a rim protector. It works, right? But when it doesn't, Brook's also not there, and you don't have help to clean up on the boards and get those defensive rebounds. We've seen offensive rebounds and points in the paint from the opponent be a big issue for this team. I don't think it's totally coincidental that those things were much better last night in that game against the Celtics with Pat Beverly back.
Yeah.
But that's the big challenge that this team is going to face outside of the elephant in the room of Giannis's health is can they hold up against perimeter opponents? And I think that's part of why you saw that change to the starting lineup last night with Pat Beverly in there and Malik Beasley coming off the bench for the first time this season.
Yeah, Doc, in terms of the starting lineup, hasn't tweaked too many things, right? And obviously that experiment last night worked in their favor. It also helped they shot almost 50% from outside. But overall, your point defensively has been kind of the talking point all year, Justin. And have you seen a major change defensively from Doc Rivers, albeit inconsistently?
I think like the big thing, I don't know if you would say it's major, but I think the big thing that Doc has done has been just come in and kind of looked at what are the worst things that we have. We're not doing that anymore. Like cleaning up some of the rebounding issues and taking guys one by one and saying, okay, you can crash on the offensive glass. You cannot. Here's what we're going to do in transition. So I think the big thing in terms of change has just been coming in and eliminating the worst things. So that has kind of stabilized the defense a bit. I know he's talked at times about being hesitant about really implementing wholesale changes. We've seen a few one-offs, right? When you think back to Dallas and the defense they put in 20 hours prior to trap Luka Doncic and get the ball out of his hands. But it's been stuff like that, where they'll use something for one game, they'll work on something in a practice the day of or before the game and implement it, but it's more short-term things and opponent-based matchup stuff. I think he hasn't wanted to overwhelm the team because that's the crazy thing is, this feels in many ways like it's been 3 seasons in one. I mean, the Bucks
no doubt
have had, albeit one of them was an interim coach, but they've had 4 coaches in the last 12 months. So I think that's been the big challenge for him is how much is too much and how much of this is just going to have to wait until next year in this offseason to implement.
Yeah, it's such a weird line, right? Because the championship window is thin. And when things weren't, the last time we talked was shortly after Doc took over, is how do you get the most out of this group now? And making a midseason coaching change was a choice, and I think one that needed to happen, but I don't know that the team has seen the results ultimately that they had hoped for with Doc Rivers. But the only result that matters is what happens in the postseason. And now, ultimately, that's a jeopardy with Giannis leaving in the third quarter of last night's game with that calf strain, and timeline is TBD, right? But without Giannis, I think we can agree, Justin, it's going to be very hard to win a championship. But hopefully he returns at some point. We assume in that first round series. We hope.
You think it's gonna be hard without him?
I think so, Justin. I think so.
I mean that's the big thing, and I think last night we all probably have a tendency to do this, but the initial reaction was to just rush to what is the worst case scenario. And,
right.
I know I was guilty of it too, with just the way the play looked and where he was reaching at. What do you always hear with Achilles? That it feels like somebody kicked me in the back of the leg, and it's kind of a little bit high up on your calf, and feels like that's kind of what we saw. So I think we all rushed to, oh no, this is an Achilles. I guess the good news is that his Achilles is intact. But I would also caution, look, we don't know. Giannis is a freak of nature. We thought his season was over and the following season was jeopardized 3 years ago, and he came back a week later to lead the Bucks to a championship. But you can't rely on that every single time.
No, you can't.
And just because the Achilles is structurally sound now, the calf it's not as though that's an insignificant injury either. I've seen a lot of people point out to the soleus, which I learned from you how to pronounce it, but that soleus issue was pretty similar, if not the same, to what Kevin Durant had in 2019, and it kind of weakened his Achilles.
Yeah.
He ultimately ruptured that in the finals, so that is certainly a concern. Every injury is different. We don't know the severity of Giannis's versus the severity of Kevin Durant's. Dane talked with Eric Name last night and said it was about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks for him. I think ideally, if this is a 2-week injury, even 3 weeks, you got by pretty good, right? That's a pretty big development for the Bucks. But yeah, we said all along the first round was going to be a challenge as is, and that was before you factored in there's at least a decent chance you won't have Giannis for all or any of that first round, and that's going to be the challenge, is the path that the Bucks are going to have. I've said all along the one team I would prefer to avoid in the first round is Philadelphia, and it's just seemed like for the last 2 weeks that's inevitable, that we're going to get that matchup. And the irony, I suppose, being we've always said, man, when are Giannis and Joel Embiid going to face in the postseason? And now you would potentially get in the series where Giannis is unavailable.
Yeah, that's the irony. The other part of that, too, is right now as it stands, the 7-8 seed, and they would play in a play-in, and the winner of that would determine, as it stands right now, the Bucks' first-round team. Justin, you're aware who the 8 seed is, right?
Okay, so famous last words, I know. And I think we all said this last year, too.
We did, yeah.
It's not the same team. It's not the same Miami Heat team. I get that Jimmy Butler goes to a different level in the postseason. Eric Spoelstra is arguably the best coach in the league and the best coach we've seen in the last, 30-plus years. Some big role players are gone. And look, again, I hesitate to even go this far. Yeah, it just doesn't look the same in their performance because we had that exact same conversation last year. But
we did.
Max Strus is gone. Gabe Vincent is gone. I know you added Terry Rozier, who has a history of big series against the Bucks. But those were two big pieces in that run a season ago. And look, the other thing I pointed out is, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, and again, part of this was assuming you had full strength. To me, you should want to play the Miami Heat.
Yes,
after what happened last year, that was kind of the approach the Bucks had in 2021 too. Is we kind of heard about behind closed doors meetings that took place, and they put it to a vote, and they all said, we want this team that ended our season last year. I mean, that should be the approach even more so this year. When you lost as a 1 seed in the first round to that same group, you should want that redemption. So I'm not as hung up on that series. To me, it's always been Philadelphia is the – I don't know about this because, Joel Embiid, even if he's not 100%, which I think everybody pointed out, well, there's no way he'll be there. Fine. If he's 80%, it is still an incredible challenge given the level he was at early in the season. And, oh, by the way, he looked incredible last night. So, again, you take away potentially a big in Giannis and an equalizer in Giannis, that would make it even more challenging.
Yeah, no, that matchup makes me more nervous. I'm with you, and I think the opportunity and the chip on the shoulder, obviously, that exists for those guys that were here a year ago.
For a number of reasons.
Miami,
they're going against their old coach. It's Nick Nurse, who, we say Eric Spoelstra has done a great job against the Bucks. Maybe second best is Nick Nurse with the defenses that he's diagrammed and the fact that Nick Nurse was up for that job too. So there's a lot of subplots to that one.
Yeah, I think from your perspective on the radio network, the stories tell themselves if that becomes the first round matchup. And add another storyline, the biggest is, will Giannis play in that series? So, yeah, it definitely makes me nervous. But I guess the benefit of the play-in is that it gives you a little bit more time to recover. Now that the play-in tournament exists, it pauses or moves the playoffs back like a week maybe?
It's a couple days because traditionally the season would end on a Wednesday.
Right.
And you wouldn't start until Saturday. So you get 2 or 3 days here. But I suppose the big thing is, where the Bucks were a season ago, if you hold on to the 2 seed, which I think if they win tonight, they do against the Magic. Even if they lose, there's still a decent chance. But if they win tonight, it almost locks it up for them. The benefit versus being a 1 seed is, Tuesday night after that 7-8 game is played, this is the team that we prepare for. It's not the reason why the Bucks lost last season, but that's the one thing about the play-in tournament is it's not ideal for the 1 seed to have to wait until 48 hours, less than that, Friday night, and then starting Sunday to learn who's the team you're going to have to fully prepare for.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and it's something I'm patiently awaiting. But it is almost playoff time, and this Giannis news this hurts my heart. We do on the show, Justin. We do the panic meter, Hunter and I do, and I said I was at a. I'm not going to ask you to do it, but I was at a 6 earlier in the week. I think I'm still at a 6. I don't think it's gone up a whole lot.
Okay.
But I guess I'm just in the wait and see mode, so we'll see with Giannis. But anyway.
I think we're all there, it's. Yeah, I've been asked before too, even before the 4-game skid of, hey, talk me into believing in the Bucks when the Celtics appear to be a juggernaut. And the last week, it's not that I can't talk you into it, but I think the reality is there are data points and there are things to point to that say, yes, like this team, their record against the best teams in the league, their net rating when they have their best players on the floor, their traditional starting five has had the best 5-man rating of any group in the league this season. So there's all those things. But there's also data points on the other end of the spectrum that have really started to pop up where it's just reached the point of, look, this whole season has almost been a choose-your-own-adventure story for the Bucks. You think about the 3 coaches along the way. There's been the Doc Rivers version, the Joe Prunty version, the Adrian Griffin version. There's been the Bucks playing with just Damian Lillard. There's been the Bucks playing with just Giannis. There's been the with and without Chris Middleton versions. And then there's been the Bucks against good teams and the Bucks against the not so good teams versions of this team. So it's just, I can't talk you into either way because whichever side you fall on, there is data to back up that feeling. It's just going to be a fully wait and see for this team.
Yeah. Knowing you covered a world championship 3 years ago, Justin, is it safe to say this is the craziest season you've covered with the Bucks?
Oh, I mean, this is one of the crazier seasons, even outside of the Bucks, that I remember in quite some time. When you just think about the firing of a coach midway through the season for a team with championship expectations, and really, it's a year and a half when you think about the whole story and the team coming back to get that 1 seed, losing in the first round, the tragedy that Mike Budenholzer experienced, Mike Budenholzer getting fired shortly after, Giannis getting hurt in that series, going into the offseason wondering what happens next, where you turn from here. And then very late in the offseason, you trade for Damian Lillard and the coaching changes and everything else. That this is such a bizarre season. And it's not making excuses for the players, but I'm sure there is, in many senses, the team is also like, man, we just kind of need time to pause and reflect on this. And that's why we kind of said the All-Star break came at the exact right time for this team. Well, they may need another All-Star break.
Yeah, if only that existed. But the way they came out of that All-Star break was really impressive. They looked like a championship team for a couple of weeks out of the break, and hopefully they can find that energy again. But again, there's the giant question mark of, will Giannis be available in that first-round series? So we will wait and see on that. You recovered from WrestleMania, most watched WrestleMania of all time on Peacock over the weekend?
I mean, barely. And, I just to finish up and tie it back to the Bucks. I mean, as somebody once said, hard times. It's hard times right now, and hard times breed better men. So that's what we're going to have to lean on. But yes, I am somewhat recovered. I stayed up until. So here's the deal. I don't know if I told you this, Stroufy. I've had the worst luck this season. We talked before the Rumble, and I had to miss it because of a Bucks game and watch it afterwards and avoid spoilers. I had a wedding Saturday night, which I was unaware of until the week of.
What? How does that happen?
Well, apparently I was told, but I.
Oh, okay. So this was the better half's wedding or friend.
Yeah.
Okay, I follow.
Yeah, I was told, and it was put on a calendar, but I don't recall any of this happening, and it was a travel wedding too. So I had to drive to this wedding, separate, mind you, because she was doing things in the wedding before when we had games, and had to sit at the wedding, had to try to stay off my phone and avoid spoilers all night.
Oh my!
I stayed up until probably 3 a.m. because you got to wait for Peacock to put the replay out there. That's the most frustrating part.
Yeah.
So I stayed up until about 3 a.m. watching parts of it until I fell asleep and watched the rest the next morning. And then I had to do the same with night 2, where it was, I'm not doing this Monday morning. I'm watching this as soon as the replay is done. And I did that. I was probably up until about 4 in the morning.
Oh, my goodness.
Monday morning doing that. But let me tell you, it was worth every minute of it.
It was a terrific product. You're not a fan of John Cena, though. I wore my John Cena shirt on Monday on the show. I texted you this morning that I jumped off my couch when John Cena appeared on Sunday night. You're over him.
I've never been a John Cena guy. It's just he's too corny for me. I respect what he's done throughout his career. He's a tad overhyped in terms of his work rate and the greatest of all time discussion when it came during a pretty bad period for the product. But look, if you're going to tie back the story, and I like how they tied it into with Solo Sikoa sent him away, he came back. So I get all that, but I don't need a John Cena resurgence. I can do without that.
Okay, whatever. I think your time on the show has come to an end, Justin, after that comment. But nonetheless, no, it was a very good weekend. And Hunter Vaughn, the producer of the show, he's anti-WWE, but Hunter, Justin and I were on the right side of history because most watched WrestleMania ever. So take that for data.
That's
He's
fine. Yeah, I'm anti fans of wrestling getting offended when I'm like, great, they wrote a good story for it, and then act like.
See what I mean?
See what I'm
dealing
it's
with?
exactly this. It's exactly this. You guys get upset because I point out that it's scripted without you guys talking about it. Like, oh yeah, they wrote a really good story to this. If I watch Game of Thrones and I like something they wrote, I talk about how the writers did a great job. Wrestling fans don't do that, and it drives me crazy.
Nah, I'm not doing that.
I mean, I don't know where you even begin with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is what I deal with. So it makes it hard to talk wrestling when Hunter is staring at me like that. But we will talk, I'm sure, in the playoff run, Justin. I know how busy you are and how little sleep clearly you got this weekend with the wedding. You forgot, how far did you have to travel for that wedding?
About an hour and a half.
Okay, that's not too bad. But
a lot of wrestling podcasts on the way up there just to get ready for it. And
hear that, Hunter?
that was the other thing why I knew I had to watch it the next day and the next morning because I needed to listen to the recaps too. So I got that out of the way.
You're the best. We'll be listening to you on the Bucks Radio Network and Bucks Talk after every game, including the playoff run, which is hopefully a little bit longer than a year ago. Justin Garcia, you are the best, my friend. Appreciate the time as always.
See you later, man.
It's Justin Garcia. You can get him on Twitter at Justin Garcia NBA. And like I said, you can hear him on the Milwaukee Bucks Radio Network. Bucks Talk, immediately following all the games. Listen to him last night on 100.5 ESPN Madison. You can also hear that always on 94.5 ESPN in Milwaukee. All right, was that too much wrestling for you? Did I go too far for you, Hunter?
I mean, the second you bring up wrestling, I think it's too far for me. So I just kind of was like, whatever, you're going to do this. It's your show. Your name's on it. Yeah. So there's a certain point where I just can't fight it anymore.
Yeah, no, when I texted Justin this morning, I saw that he had texted me. Well, actually, I mean, it was a few months back. But the last time I was on the show, Royal Rumble, we were breaking it down. I was like, oh, yeah, we just happened to pretty much do a quarterly checkup, which happens to be when the WWE's biggest shows are. So anyway, all right, you and I each have had a life frustration in the last 24, 48 hours. So every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do, make fun of me for this if you want. I think this is more fair to make fun of me than my WWE fandom, is I play the New York Times mini crossword every day, first thing I do when I wake up. Have you ever played the mini crossword on New York Times?
No, I did do Wordle when that was a big thing.
We're kind of over that now, though,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
and I did a movie version of Wordle as well, but I have not done mini crossword.
Okay, mini crossword's addicting because it's timed, right? So you got to do it as fast as you can. Typically, I live somewhere between 40 seconds and 2 minutes. That's pretty much my range I work in.
It's a pretty big window, but okay.
Yeah, well, no, but I think you'll understand what I mean by this after I tell you my time from today, which I text to one of our marketing consultants here at ESPN Madison. Me and Chad, we compete against each other every day. He did today's in 1 minute flat, 60 seconds.
Chad's a smart guy.
Yeah, he is. Longest it ever took me today.
Oh, geez.
9 minutes, 50 seconds. I barely edged out 10 minutes. I'm going to give you 3 words that were in the crossword today. I didn't know any of them. And I don't know if I'm saying it right. Egret, I think. Egret. Don't know what that means.
No idea.
Elegy, Elegy. Don't know what that means. And I believe it's either arid or erd, Erred. Don't know any of those words. So I was literally guessing on letters until it told me. So 9 minutes, 50 seconds.
That's a tough outing.
Yeah. So I've been cranky today. I think it's because my day started off on the right foot. You had a traffic incident.
Yeah. Monday after work, I was driving home, and I won't say any roads or anything because of who is potentially involved in this.
Okay.
Get to a 3-way stop, and it's a stoplight, and I'm the second car at the light.
Okay.
And light turns green. I wait for a little bit, and they're not going. So I go 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, literally out loud to make sure that I'm like not being too impatient.
Wait, hold on. Time out. We got to talk about that for a second. So if you're going to honk at somebody, you count?
Yes, I count.
You
out
don't
loud.
just have like a mental ticker where it's like, all right, it's been long enough.
Because I'm pretty impatient. Like I sit there and I stare at the light until it turns green, and then I go, because I like hate like if I like get distracted by something and then it turned green and someone's waiting behind me. So I just out loud count to 3, and I just gave a single like a love tap to the horn, just a little beep, like, hey, it turned green, get going. And the car in front of me was a nice SUV. Looked like it was pretty new. As they sped up to turn left, the person gave me an angry look through the window, and I swear that it looked like Luke Fickell, the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers.
Okay, so you don't have to tell me which direction you were going or where you were, but were you near Camp Randall?
I wasn't terribly far from Camp Randall, and a source close to the situation knows the general vicinity where he may reside.
Resides, okay.
So like
it would make sense.
Yes,
okay.
That route would make sense. So everything stacking together makes me think that I pissed off Luke Fickell,
which is fine. I mean, if he waited too long at a red light, I'm fine.
He would have been proud if his O lineman waited that long and they were trying to draw the defense offside, because he did not move. So like that was good. Like, I'm glad that he's coaching up the O lineman well if they use that level of patience.
I don't know how I feel about that joke, but okay.
I mean, it was just.
Do you wish you would not have honked?
Knowing that it was Fickell, maybe, but like he's not going to recognize me, so I'm not super concerned. Like he has no idea I exist, but it's also like
you are one of, if not the biggest college football fan I know.
Yeah,
and you're a big Wisconsin Badgers fan.
Yes.
So I guess knowing
I don't want him to have a bad impression of Madison. Like he's only been here like a year,
right?
And like I feel like I'm like. Still, like we're still in like that early phase of things.
If I tell you he's working on NIL fundraising at that light, right? He knew he was at a light. He pulled out the phone real quick. He's working on fundraising for name, image, and likeness. Do you regret your decision?
Yeah, if it means a recruit, maybe because he didn't get something sent in time.
What if you found out he was sending out a bat signal tweet?
Not as bad. Still, like, that doesn't feel great. So, I'm sorry, Luke, if it was you.
Yeah, apology necessary on that one. All right, time now to wrap up the show. You learn something new every day. I learned something new today. Time now for what Strouf learned. We talked Monday. We are a big Horizon League show, Hunter. We like the Horizon League.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
a fan of the mid-majors after having Jack Golke from Oakland on Monday. Now, coaching changes, I just never understand the timeline, because in this particular case, the season's been over for 3 weeks, and I thought this was a little late, but maybe I'm wrong on that. As up in Green Bay, women's basketball coach Kevin Borseth announced his retirement just a few hours ago. He's a 9-time coach of the year, 13 NCAA tournament bids during his time with the Phoenix, and then he was also the head coach prior at the University of Michigan. Or is it Michigan University? Michigan University, I believe. They get very angry if you call them the...
I thought it was the University of Michigan.
It might be, but they get mad if you say the because of the Ohio State stuff. Anyway, Borseth, 16th winningest Division I women's basketball coach of all time, revitalized what was not a very good very good basketball campus, UW Green Bay. It helped elevate the men's side. It helped elevate the interest in my hometown of Green Bay. Kevin Borseth, an absolute legend. He will have a street named after him, like Mike McCarthy style, on UW Green Bay's campus, which I thought was cool. I didn't know that college athletics did that unless you won a national championship, but Borseth won plenty of Horizon League championships. So he will have a street named after him on campus. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, the success that Green Bay had is part of what even first got me to even notice women's basketball, to be completely honest,
Yeah,
because
fair.
I was like,
In our area, yeah.
I didn't care. And then as I was getting through middle school and high school is when they were going on their Horizon League runs and getting into the tournament. And he's an awesome coach. And it is cool that they're naming a street after him. I like kind of tying that tradition to the NFL team that does that.
So I love that, but I also learned something else, and it's about you because you were off on Friday.
Yes.
You were leaving this show to go watch a live production of a different show.
Yes, a different podcast.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger deal podcast, let's be honest.
I mean, it is the biggest podcast in the United States currently.
Yeah.
New Heights with the Kelsey brothers.
Yes.
They're doing it live in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes, at the
University. Right?
Yep, at the University of Cincinnati. It's going to be at the basketball arena. It was originally supposed to be in the football stadium, but rain has kind of changed those plans. So I'll be in the basketball arena watching them do the podcast with Joe Burrow on. So that'll be fun.
You a Joe Burrow guy?
I like him.
I do too.
I just want him to stay healthy.
Pick your Kelsey brother.
It's Travis. Jason's fine, but he played for the Eagles. So I just can't.
Gotcha.
Can't do it.
I'm a Jason guy myself, but nonetheless. Enjoy. I don't know how to feel about it, but we're back with you Friday without Hunter as we send you into the weekend. Looking forward to talking a little NFL draft next week as well. Eric Name is going to join us to wrap up the Bucs regular season Monday. We'll get into some NFL draft talk next Wednesday, and obviously we'll just be a week away. So looking forward to all that. We're back with you Friday, though, without Tiny Hands. Big thanks to Josh DiMaggio, Tiny Hands for running the show. Big thanks to Justin Garcia talking a little Bucs and WrestleMania with us. Just gotta scratch my itch a little bit. We haven't talked about it on the show yet. We're back with you Friday at 12:30 on ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison social channels, and available wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find them. Just search Mr. Irrelevant. Back with you Friday. We'll talk to you then. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.
Their toxic relationship is an impediment to this. But the one thing I've never been able to criticize any sport for doing is the people in any sport is trying as hard as they can to win. Their job is to try and win. It's not to protect the elbows of 15-year-old kids. So they're just trying to win. What is it they could do? Let me hold this thought.
I've got things for you, and I think you're going to like
I want you to come back on the other side of a break and share them.
Okay.
We'll do that. I have a bunch of other football and hopper as well. And we've got group trivia, so let's go.
There are 4 quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall that won at least 100 regular season NFL games. You're going to give me all 4 number 1 overall picks at quarterback to win 100 games in their NFL career.
Does this happen again with the common draft?
This is all time, but all 4 of these guys have been drafted. I'm not going back to the 20s and 30s here.
Okay, I understand.